Hi guys. Everyone has a story and all of our stories are important. That's something I firmly believe in. And all of us, I think, are also caught up in bigger stories, such as the stories of our families. They impact our identity, they impact our story. The stories of our work, of our nations. The list can go on and on. And stories are important because they tell us, among other things, how we got here. They tell us what our identity is. They tell us what's wrong with the world and, for instance, who the bad guys are. And big stories, they have a plot. They kind of tell us where things are going and how to fix what's been broken. And often, they also have someone who makes fixing what is broken possible. And this person is the hero. And big stories, they also have an ending. They tell us where we are going and how we will get there. The story of God also has an ending, which maybe more appropriately might be called a new beginning. There's something wrong with the world, but what's wrong with the world can be made right again. And according to the story of God, to get to that new beginning, the brokenness in the world needs to end. And Jesus, as the hero of God's story, does exactly that. Jesus, as the hero of God's story, bringing about the end of the story, or the new beginning, what Jesus does is he defeats death and he offers us resurrection life. Jesus also, he ends exile by giving to us and empowering us by his Spirit, the Spirit of God. And finally, Jesus is on a mission to make all things new. That is, Jesus, his whole purpose in being is to fix everything that's been broken. Let me read to you a part of the Gospel of Luke, Luke 24, verse 5. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, he has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee? The Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day raised again." So this is a part of the Bible talking about how Jesus has been crucified, and 3 days later, women go to look for his body to take care of it, to embalm his body sort of thing, and do the burial rites. And they're looking for Jesus in a tomb. And they meet an angel that says, "Jesus is not here. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Jesus is alive. He is risen." So, as the Bible tells a story, death was never meant to be part of God's creation. Death is part of our everyday reality now, but it's because of human rebellion. God never wanted it to be that way. Humans rebelled against God, and what they did is, in their rebellion, they corrupted his creation through their rebellion. And because of that, death became a reality. It's something that we have to deal with. Our greatest enemy is death. Jesus, as the hero of God's story, defeats death. Jesus' resurrected body is the blueprint for what we'll all experience one day. That is, physical life in a beautiful meshing of the new heaven and new earth together. Jesus rises again from the dead and makes it possible for other humans to be resurrected to new life. Another part of the Bible says, Colossians 1 verse 18 says, that Jesus is the firstborn from the dead. He is the first of the many who will follow Jesus, their King. They're following Jesus, their King, and their King, Jesus, has led them into resurrection life. He's gone first. Jesus tells his friends in John 11:25, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die." And for me, that last passage is particularly special because I quoted it to my dad when he was lying in palliative care, dying from multiple myeloma, a bone marrow cancer. And with his eyes shut and being weak and feeble, and I held his hand. I said, "Dad, you're dying, but you will live again, and I will see you in the new creation, and we will be brothers forever." And my dad squeezed my hand. That's all I needed from him to know that he had hope, and I had hope that we would see each other again because he will be resurrected. And when I die, I will be resurrected. I am a Christian because it is the story that makes the most sense of the good and the bad that I see inside of me. There's good and then there's bad in me. I'm also a Christian because it makes the most sense. It's the story that makes the most sense of the good and the bad that I see in the world around me. And it gives me meaning and purpose now. And this is really important. It gives me hope for the future. So many other big stories or worldviews provide meaning and purpose when things are going kind of pretty good. But they break down when having to deal with the issue of death. In fact, many ways to look at the world, in these stories, meaning, purpose, and hope, they actually cease to exist when we die because we cease to exist. But I found that no matter who we are, no matter what story we believe in, whatever big story we subscribe to, I found that people still wonder about life after death. You know, it's not something that can be proved to the satisfaction of many people either way. But the story of God, whether you believe it or not, it does take seriously the fact that 10 out of 10 humans die. And what it does is it offers hope. Some of my most memorable moments of connecting with friends who would never ever go to church has been talking about my hope in resurrection because of Jesus. And so maybe you have thoughts on this, maybe you have questions about this. What we're going to do now is just spend a few moments going through a set of 3 questions. And somehow, if you're able to comment on this video, or if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to. Or if we're watching this together, I'd love to hear your thoughts on your answer to these questions as well. So the first set of questions is, does this part of the story, the idea of new creation, the idea of Jesus defeating death and offering resurrection life, does this part of the story make sense of something you felt or experienced in your life? Are you the kind of person that's searching for hope when a loved one dies, looking for comfort? Does this part of the story, does it frame things that you see in the world in a useful way? Second set of questions. Some people see the offer of hope in life after death as something that the weak-willed need. You know, Ken, your dad was dying, you're weak-willed, you're suffering. Of course, you're kind of going to believe in life after death. Some people see this offer of hope in life after death as something that manipulates people's fears or grief, or that it's just unscientific. We've got no proof. We've got no scientific proof about it. What are your thoughts? How do you approach the reality of death? If, the last set of questions, if the story of God is true and Jesus did rise again from the dead, would that make a difference in the way you see the world? What about if the story of God is not true and Jesus didn't rise from the dead? What difference would that make in the way that you see the world? So hopefully there's some food for thought there, some questions to provoke some kind of discussion. Love to hear your opinions on that.